Grove Unified School District Board of Education regular meeting on Thursday, February 10th. The Board of Education welcomes you to its meetings, which are regularly scheduled for the first and third Thursdays of the month. Regular board meetings shall be adjourned by 10 p.m. unless extended to a specific time determined by a majority of the board. The meeting may be extended no more than once and may be adjourned to a later date. Individuals who require special accommodation, including but not limited to American Sign Language interpreter, accessible seating, or documentation in accessible formats, should contact the superintendent at least 2 days before the meeting date. Any writings or documents that are public records and are provided to a majority of the governing board regarding an open session item on this agenda will be made available for public inspection in the district office, which is located at 435 Hillcrest Avenue, Pacific Grove, during normal business hours. Okay, so I call this meeting to order. And I wish to read, there's some new documentation that needs to be read this evening. And I would like to announce for the record that this meeting is being conducted pursuant to California Government Code Section 54953B concerning teleconferencing of meetings. Board member Carolyn Swanson is participating in this meeting by speakerphone from her vehicle, a white Tesla, in the school district office parking lot at 435 Hillcrest Avenue in Pacific Grove. In accordance with the Brown Act, this location has been identified on the agenda for this meeting. I would now like to ask board member Carolyn Swanson to respond to the following questions. Are you able to hear our proceedings on this end?
Yes.
Do you have a copy of the agenda for this meeting?
Yes.
Has the agenda been posted at your location?
Yes.
Is your location such that any member of the public could participate in the public portions of this teleconference meeting from your location?
Yes.
Members of the board, are you able to hear board member Carolyn Swanson?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Because we are having a meeting with teleconferencing, all actions this evening will be by roll call vote. Thank you. Next, we'll have roll call, please.
President Dawson,
Present.
Vice President Rivera here. Trustee Path is absent today. Trustee Brian Swanson. Present. Trustee Carolyn Swanson.
Here.
And our student rep is not present at this time.
All right, next we'll move on to the adoption of the agenda. Is there any changes that we would like to make or things we should be made aware of?
Yes, Madam President, we have a couple items for you that we're going to go ahead and request be changed now since we know there's some adjustments. First off, we'd like to pull off the consent agenda classified assignment order 11, as we have some changes that we needed to make last minute. And that item will be made available to the public on the website right after this meeting. We did provide a copy of that for you ahead of time. And we also would like to pull consent agenda item D, contract services for Belly Architecture Group. We have a contract issue that we wanted to get adjusted so that the item was done appropriately. For those reasons, we'd like to go ahead and move those two items to action. On the action discussion agenda, with apologies, the order reads A, B, D. Somewhere along the line, C disappeared. However, these new items would be, the new classified assignment order would be scheduled as D, and the Belly Architecture Group would be scheduled E. Those are recommended changes for you this evening, Madam President.
Okay, just for clarification, both under consent B and C are classified assignment order 11. So both of those items are what you're referring to.
Item C, classified assignment order on the consent agenda.
Only C.
And they're correct. And then item D would be the second item.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. I appreciate that. And both of those shall be moved then to action discussion.
Thank you.
Okay.
No other changes on the agenda this evening.
All right. Is there any public comment at this time? Seeing none? Do I have a motion?
I will move.
Oh, board
to-
question. Do you have any? I didn't see it.
I don't, no.
Not at this time?
I'll move to accept the agenda as amended.
Second.
Okay, a motion by trustee Brian Swanson and seconded by Dr. Frank Rivera. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Dawson,
Aye.
trustee Rivera,
Aye.
trustee Paff is absent, trustee Brian Swanson,
Aye.
trustee Carolyn Swanson.
Aye.
Okay, now we are going to move into closed session.
Go ahead and read the items for closed session.
There we go. Thank you so much. I was kind of keeping it top secret. Identified closed session topics. The Board of Education will meet in closed session to consider matters appropriate for closed session in accordance with Education and Government Code. One that we'll be looking at is negotiations, which is collective bargaining, session planning, and preparation with the PGTA for the 2021 and through 22, the current school year. Executive session between the public school employer and its designated representative, Buck Rogaman, Song Chin Bindib, and Ralph Gomez Porras for the purpose of giving direction and update. We will also cover negotiations for collective bargaining session planning and preparation for the CSEA for the current year as well. And this session is between the public school employee and the designated representative, once again, Billy Mankey, Song Chin Bindib, and Ralph Gomez Porras. We will also be discussing public employee discipline, dismissal, release, complaint, Government Code 54957. Another item will be consideration of student discipline, case student number 032122. And that's that. Now, we will really move
Well, we need to have public comment.
to public comment. Oh, I was going to wait till after to hear, but they can't. Any public comment now?
Be online, nobody in the audience.
Thank goodness. And now it's official. We shall adjourn to closed session. In open session. And I'm going to report out now what took place in closed session on the items that I previously listed. Information was received, direction was given, and no action was taken. Now we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance, please, if you'd stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Communications. We will start with written communication this evening. I would appreciate it if people chime in, but I think the board received a lot of communication this week and the week prior. We had a note from a teacher, Jessica Grogan, letting us know about Angela Liu and Vivian Ming in the Monterey County Poetry Out Loud competition. And we're delighted to hear that both young ladies did very well. I watched some of the video, and it was very nice that the MC called out Ms. Grogan by name and thanked her for her involvement. We also got a letter concerning maintenance at Robert Down. There were multiple letters about tenure track. We had a letter from the city asking for some assistance at the city council meeting for explanation about redistricting. A letter regarding blinds on one of the sites. A letter from a gentleman saying that when we're talking about the different publications that are around, not to forget Pacific Grove Press. So I want that entered in, that we are not forgetting about that. Anything else you can think of?
I think you covered everything I had, and then maybe one or two that I didn't. Thank you.
Okay, well, you are very welcome. Okay, so that
Trustee
is written communication, and if we could go to,
Check too and make sure that trustee Carolyn Swanson, no relation, can chime in too.
of course, trustee Carolyn Swanson, do you have any to add?
I do. Thank you, Brian, for mentioning that. I got an email about COVID protocols and procedures. I got an email about a staff member at the middle school making sure that they had current CCS membership. I got an email
CCS.
about school bus usage and feedback. I got an email about I got an email, I should say, in favor of increasing teacher salary and benefits. Got an email about districting maps and hoping to keep Del Monte Park together as one neighborhood. And that's all I got, including the ones you got.
Okay, and CCS, I'm not sure what that you alluded to.
The CCS is a state, what I think Ralph knows the exact description. It's
Central
related
Coast
to-
sectional, I think.
Oh, sporting, the sports,
this
a
one-
music thing.
Yeah, music and sometimes sports, yes, but this was for music.
Oh, okay, thank you so much for sharing that.
Mhm.
Okay, now we'll go for board member comments. Trustee Carolyn, would you like to continue?
Sure. So I just want to acknowledge this is February. This is Black History Month, and I hope that we all take some time to learn about some fantastic contributions from Black individuals throughout history and current times. I want to acknowledge that lunar, sometimes people call it Chinese New Year, took place. So Happy New Year to anyone who celebrates that. I wanted to just mention, after our last meeting, I just wanted to just really state that public comments, oh my gosh, my car just stopped. Public comments are welcome. They are part of our process. And if anyone is on the meeting or wants to comment during our meetings, that they're absolutely welcome and should not feel pressured not to speak. So please, please, please keep speaking at our meetings to everyone. I guess I should also just address why my background is so kind of goofy tonight. I'm out in my vehicle in the district parking lot. That was from a resolution that our board decided not to pass. And so I just want to let you know, if the lighting is weird, it's because I'm using the lighting from my vehicle's visor. When you open that up to check your makeup, that's the light that I'm going off of. And I'm using a Chromebook. So if I'm hoping it doesn't die, but if it does, I will switch quickly over to my phone. So those are all my comments that I have tonight.
Thank you so much. Trustee Brian Swanson?
I know we already touched on it, but I just, I wanted to comment on the note that Jessica Grogan had sent out about our two students, because if you do get a second to watch all the participants, they're all really remarkable. It's like, I can barely order at a fast food drive-through, and to see these young people do what they did was just, it's really astounding and inspiring. So if anybody has a chance to check it out, I would really encourage that they do that. I don't know if we can get that posted, or maybe it already is shared on the district website, but it was pretty cool.
Okay, thank you so much. Trustee Frank Rivera?
Thank you. I just want, I'll make this brief. Congratulations again to our young poets. How exciting. I also want to say how much I like the new and improved agenda, how it's designed, and especially how we have our mission statement up top to remind us of why we're here. And to that, the new format, as much as possible, thank you again for the governance course. So to the public, we were given these books, the governance core. And I also want to add to that list, if you're a big reader, the Essential School Board book, the red book, is often referred to, as we try to pull together for the sake of our students, make sure that we have efficient meetings. I think that if we're succinct, we can invite more participation. I know that's been a concern of ours, our community participation in these board meetings, But if we don't let them we don't spend too much time on repeating what other trustees have said or going on and on about topics, we can just, keep straight to the point. That would invite more people to participate. That's all.
Thank you so much. I wanted to mention that one of the things I'm involved with is out at the Monterey County Office of Ed School Board Association. And they have sent out to board members, and I think we all got that. I don't know if it comes through you, Dr. Porras, but it's about protecting our youth against tobacco, vaping, marijuana. They offer courses to us. And I know I attended ones before with Trustee Carolyn Swanson, but there are some wonderful things that are out there. One of the other things, and that's going to be coming I should be more specific, February 15th from 5:30 to 7 via Zoom. One of the other things this body does is recognize a group for what they've given to our students throughout the county. And I just wanted to let you know that in the last week at the meeting that I attended, the group that was recognized this year is Monterey County Food Bank. And a lot of the schools in the southern part of the county said that they couldn't have gone forward without that. So that's kind of a really big deal. I also want to thank, I'm trying to get to the different sites and visit now that COVID's not as crazy. We're out there more often, and I was able to visit at Robert Down and Forest Grove, and I'll be visiting others as well. And that was a very enjoyable experience. So I want to thank you. Okay, so we'll go from there. And next, if we could have the superintendent report, please.
Thank you, Madam President. Actually, this evening, I'm just going to defer to the agenda. I think various announcements I would have made will come during the particular agenda items. I think the only piece that I do want to add, and I'll mention it again in the COVID report, I want to appreciate everyone's patience and just exceptional work, all staff members and our parents and our students as we continue to navigate everything that is COVID. And as we're kind of watching some hints of light at the end of the tunnel coming at us, I know there's cautious optimism, and sometimes that makes it easier for folks to start letting off a little bit. But everyone has just been doing a great job at our sites, working to make it as safe as possible for our students. Our teachers just do an exceptional job of creating a safe environment and still making it a place where students are excited and enjoying the innovation and being part of what's happening. And so I just want to acknowledge all the staff for the amazing work that they do. It's above and beyond in this really crazy time. So we'll continue to move forward, but I do want to acknowledge that. And one other piece I should acknowledge, I don't know if we had the opportunity to introduce Louis. Have we introduced you? There's our newest director of IT, Louis Algaze. Louis is in the back over there, and people at home probably can't see him, but here he is in person. And he has done a tremendous job rolling forward. Cannot speak enough positive things about Raymond, who kept us afloat as we were getting our work. And they're doing transition work right now, and just a lot of already just positive stuff happening, and just making it work much more smooth. And I can tell you my anxiety level dropped completely as I just watching things happen and then come into the boardroom and it's just taken care of. And so Louis, welcome aboard. We're so happy to have you on the admin team and helping serving the district, and appreciate you being here. And that's all I have for today.
Thank you so much. Now, please, for PGUSD staff comments, non-agenda items.
Right. Good evening, Lito Garcia, proud principal of the high schools. It is National School Counseling Week. So I just want to acknowledge our three amazing counselors, Ms. Paris, Ms. Rice, and Mr. Errett. They do a tremendous job on behalf of our students, our staff, and our families. And they deserve actually more than 1 week. They deserve an entire school year of appreciation. So we just want to thank them. So when you see your high school counselors, please tell them thank you. And that's all I have for tonight.
Thank you so much.
Good evening, everybody. Larry Hagquist, Pacific Grove High School. I just wanted to let everybody know, remind everybody really that there's a mock trial competition on Saturday, this Saturday at Monterey County Courthouse, 8:30 a.m. PG is going against Stevenson's, our prosecution is going against Stevenson's defense. And the mock trial coaches have been doing a great job preparing these students. And if they do well, they can be in the 2 o'clock final on Saturday. We don't know how that's going to go, but we shall see on Saturday. So just wanted to remind everybody.
Thank you for letting us know that. Is there anybody online? Okay. Trustee Brian Swanson, will you read? Oh, sorry, here comes somebody. Thank you. Carrie Serpa?
Hi, I wasn't really planning to speak tonight. I'm making dinner, but I want to say I really appreciate our school counselors at all 3 schools that where my children attend and where I teach, because I'm not sure how I could do my job without them. And as a parent, I appreciate them too. So shout out to all those school counselors. Please keep them in our schools. We love you.
Thank you for sharing that.
All right, President Dawson asked that I would read the introduction to individuals desiring to address the board. I think it's a great idea for us to just go through this every once in a while. Public comment on any item of interest to the public that is within the board's jurisdiction will be heard. The board will also take public comment on each specific action item prior to board action on each item. The board will allow a reasonable amount of time for public comment on each agenda item, not to exceed 3 minutes per speaker and no more than 20 minutes per agenda item pursuant to board policy 9323. Speakers will be called sequentially until there is no speaker coming forward on the agenda item or the amount of time allocated for the agenda item has elapsed, whichever comes first. This meeting of the Board of Education is a business meeting of the board conducted in public. Please note that the Brown Act limits the board's ability to respond to public comment. The board may choose to direct items to the administration for action or place an item on a future agenda.
All right, individuals who would like to speak to the board? This meeting is going to be going along quickly. All right, next we will discuss a consent agenda. Items listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine and or may have been discussed at a previous board meeting. There's no discussion of these items prior to the board vote unless a member of the board requests specific items be discussed and or removed from the consent agenda. Each item on the consent agenda approved by the Board of Trustees shall be deemed to have been considered in full and adopted as recommended. So tonight we've pulled item C, classified assignment number 11, as well as D, the contract for services with Belly Architectural Group, and they will now be placed under action for this evening. So for now, the consent agenda, other than that, is as it appears,
Unless another trustee would like to pull another item.
unless somebody else would like to pull.
I don't have anything.
Okay, so the agenda stands. And do I have a
Motion to approve?
I'll second.
motion to approve? The consent agenda was Dr. Frank Rivera and seconded by Brian Swanson. And now we will have a roll call vote.
Trustee,
Oh, public comment.
oh, the public comments, that's right.
I
you're
was
reading
gonna
the- you're
say,
reading the
come on,
script. Thank
I
you.
am so literate tonight. I'm on it. Is there any public comment this evening on the consent agenda? Seeing none, we will follow the motion and
Madam
have,
President, If I
oh,
may,
sorry.
we do have some comments about, from staff, but we'd like to do them after you make the approval to make sure the item's passed, if that's okay.
Okay, so we'll approve and then ask staff.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. So roll call vote, please.
President Christy Dawson,
Yeah, aye.
Vice President Rivera,
Aye.
Trustee John Paff is absent, Trustee Brian Swanson. Aye. Trustee Carolyn Swanson.
Hi.
Okay, now we will hear comments from staff.
And if you would announce just that it carried 4-0.
I'm sorry.
That's
It
okay.
carried 4-0 with one absence.
Thank you so much.
And now really?
Yes, we have. I just wanted to note a couple of things,
Okay.
if I may, and then I know that a couple other staff members may want to as well. If you were to look on our certificated assignment order, you're going to notice that we have a couple of retirements that you just approved. And in this case, I think it's well worth noting that the bowlers retirements have been approved by the board after their service to the district. Kathy's service for 26 years, Todd after 32 years. I think it's safe to say that the bowlers are sort of Mr. and Mrs. PG. They have done just a tremendous amount of work as advocates, you know, as teacher counselors, as teachers. They are amazing human beings. Todd, as you know, or may not know, was a vice principal when I first arrived in the district, and then eventually chose to work closer with the students. And I think we'd be remiss not pointing them out for the work they have done. They are just tremendous people. And I know that I think Billy also wanted to make a couple comments. If she can. Okay. Okay. All right, Director Mankey, I think you're able to unmute yourself now.
Thank you for unmuting me. Yes, Todd and Kathy, I just want to thank both of you so much for your dedication to the students, to our Pgusd greater community. And you're just the kind of people that we always depended on. And you know, there's really no words that can ever thank you enough. But just know that your work has been appreciated. And we're going to miss you.
That too.
But anytime you want to sub, you can come back and sub.
Yes. Rumor is there's some availability.
Okay, no, I think unless there's other staff that wanted to speak up, I think that was.
Quick comment.
Yes, please.
Thank you both for your service. Coach Buller, Todd, you've been here since I was a student at PG High back in 1923 or something.
Just
that
prior to
long-
World War II.
Not
I
that long
remember.
ago, not that long ago. But I just want to thank, even back then, really cool guy, really well respected, fun, and I'm sure that carried through the years. So thank you very much.
Any other comments? Yes. Principal Garcia, thank you.
So this is just the beginning of being able to honor, recognize the bowlers for their dedication to Pgusd, PG High School students, and the entire community. The bowlers were some of the first staff to reach out to me when I was hired, and just really have supported me, continue to support me in my position, provide guidance. They are two amazing educators, and they will truly be missed. I've offered them other opportunities to work for the district, and they've turned me down. But you know, I've got a couple months to still work on that. But again, we will take every opportunity we can over the next few months to honor and recognize the bowlers. Just thank you is just not enough. But thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Buller.
Thank you for sharing those sentiments. Okay, no more public comment. At this time, we'd like to open the public hearing for the presentation on the process to create trustee areas and public hearing regarding the content of trustee area maps.
Thank you, Madam President, and our two presenters who have been here. I think this may be our fourth presentation now. We'll be presenting this item again. And so I will go ahead and pass the baton over to Dr. Jeff Tilton and Jonathan Berry.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for having us again. Before we pass things along to Jeff, I wanted to just briefly touch base on where we are in the process and what our goals for this meeting are. So we're at the point where we've already completed 2 public hearings prior to the development of maps. This is a part in the CVRA process where since maps were already drawn, we had, or drafted, we had a meeting about 2 or so weeks ago. We discussed maps. We even implemented a couple of additional maps for your consideration at this meeting. And yeah, thanks for putting the PowerPoint up there, Jeff. So here on February 10th, the goal, if possible, would be to now limit the number of maps that we have, eliminate some that don't make sense, or share preferences for maps that seem better than others, in the hopes that we are left with, I mean, ideally one proposed map, if not one, maybe a couple, just so we are honing in on which map or maybe few maps the district thinks is most appropriate for the district boundary lines moving forward. So yeah, I just wanted to take a couple of seconds to discuss the ultimate purpose of this meeting in order to help, frame some of the public comment and discussions as we get to those pieces. But at this point, I'd love to pass things along to Jeff.
Hey, good evening again, everyone. It's nice to see everyone virtually again. Yeah, and as Special Counsel had mentioned with respect to tonight's opportunity, if you will, the outcome would be great to narrow down to a final map heading into your next meeting, and which would also be a public hearing, and then you would adopt a resolution. And the reason why I echo some of those sentiments is your county registrar of voters would love for you to finish by February 28th, like all the other redistricting school districts going through redistricting, et cetera. So it could help prepare the job that the county registrar of voters has before it and in the next election in November. So here we are tonight, and I'm going to go through this again for the sake of folks who may not have seen the previous 3 public hearings as it relates to districting. When we're looking at districting, it's not a matter of just getting the map of the school district and then drawing 5 trustee areas. That would be great if we could do it that way, but we must, number one, try to create trustee areas that are of equal population. The courts allow a deviation of 10% overall when we're looking at the 5 trustee areas in the district. And in addition to that, we have to use census blocks to design the trustee areas. And not all census blocks are alike, especially in coastal communities like yours. We must follow the Federal Voting Rights Act, where we don't want to have any discriminatory practices as we go through this process, or at any time for that matter. And we want no racial gerrymandering. And then we shift over to California criteria, and we want to have our trustee areas to be geographically contiguous. We don't want to have 2 different particular areas be a trustee area. We want, to the extent practical, not divide neighborhoods and communities of interest. And I'm going to point this out on a couple of attempts following the 3rd public hearing we had, and then and the comments that came from that. And then we want easily identifiable boundaries, and we want our trustee areas to be compact. And I think you're going to see in the candidates here, they are compact, but again, we're bound by census blocks. So you're going to say, why does it look like that? Well, it's because that's how the census block is designed. So again, as we've gone through this process, we are asking folks, and we got some great information last meeting, what is your neighborhood and what defines your community? And so last meeting, we had 4 draft maps, the 4 that are listed there at the top of this depiction. And then we, based on comments from the public and trustees, we created 3 more opportunities and 3 more drafts for you to consider tonight. So in review, the green map, it shows here, it has a deviation of 5.72% as it relates to the entire plan. The orange map has some differences in it. It has a deviation of 3.95, so it's a pretty tight deviation, and so is the silver plan. It's 3.18% deviation. And then the teal plan as a 4.92% deviation across the trustee area. Then we shift into the plans that were created based on input from the public hearing we held last time. And this is the Cypress map. And you'll notice on these maps, you'll see sequencing, proposed sequencing and alternate sequencing. And I know Councilor Barry Smith might want to address that after my presentation. But you're going to see where, for example, here on proposed sequencing, trustee area 1, we're proposing that particular trustee area is held for election if you chose this particular map, or you could have an alternative sequencing model where you said it's either 22 or 24. So that's what those mean. And you see the name in parentheses alongside of those trustee areas, because currently that's where the current trustees reside in these proposed trustee areas. So on the Cypress map, the deviation is pretty tight at 2.20%. The Lupine map, this is the one where we took a lot of the comments from the public and trustees and tried to design, in the perfect world, the perfect map. And so you have the Del Monte neighborhood, Candy Cane Lane, and those, you can see them in District 4 and District 3. And then you see, there was also a request to have the Sinex perhaps be a dividing line for, folks going south of Sinex and folks on the north. And you can see, well, we weren't actually able to do that as cleanly as possible because we're bound by census plots and the amount of people who live in census plots. The same thing with Pebble Beach should be its own area. And while we try to create that, there are not enough people to say Pebble Beach could be its own area. So that's why you see Pebble Beach, sorry for that. That's why you see proposed trustee area 5 reaching up north and then circling around the coastline there and touching, proposed trustee area 1 up there by Mermaid Avenue. So that's Lupine map. And then we have the Monarch map. Again, trying to respect the idea of the various communities, etc. So you see trustee area 5, while that we could get the Pebble Beach area, but we're also now encroaching on the Del Monte neighborhood. So it's a little bit of a dance. Actually, it's quite a bit of a dance to try to keep the neighborhoods and the communities together as it relates to the ideal map for the district trustee areas. And again, we have to go with the census blocks to be able to try to accomplish that. So that concludes the presentation and the work we've done up to this point. Ideally, it would be great for you to select a map going into your final required public hearing, and then you would pass the resolution and become trustee area for the next 10 years, and then do this again in 10 years. They call that redistricting. So thank you very much, and I will shift it back to the chair unless Councilor Barry Smith would like to add anything.
Yes, no, thanks for that, Jeff. That was really informative. I just wanted to clarify, because this is a piece that doesn't really come very, very naturally, even though we're basically are asking the board and the public to comment and discuss 2 separate but related items. The first item is which of these 7 maps is most preferred. And then the similar but separate request is also to decide upon a sequencing of elections. And in other words, a sequencing of elections is noting which trustee area, not which specific trustee that lives in that area, but I'm talking about the boundaries. Which trustee area will be up for election in which years? So it can be 3 in 1 year, or 3 in 2022, and 2 in 2024. And that's why there's, for some of these maps, proposed sequencing and alternate sequencing, because there were multiple permutations or combinations of dates when this area would be vacant versus that one, et cetera. And I think it is most logical to go about picking the map first and then deciding upon sequencing. However, if it gets really tricky, or if there's two maps at the end of the day and it's hard to determine which one the board and the public prefer, you're allowed to look at the sequencing and say, well, this sequencing makes a lot more sense than that other map sequencing, so why don't we go with the map that is easier to implement? So I just wanted to throw that out there, that they're related, but separate items to choose on. And I'm sure the board and the community are more than welcome to comment on all aspects of these maps and sequencing. So now I will pass it on onto the board.
I'll add one more thing for the public, and I think I mentioned this to the trustees last time, is trustees were elected to fill a term. That still happens, regardless of the sequencing situation that the trustees decide. So if you were elected to finish your term all the way to 2024, you're still in office all the way to 2024.
Okay, thank you very much for that information. What we're going to do right now is open this to initially board comments or questions. Trustee Carolyn Swanson.
Thank you, President Dawson. I feel like I'm yelling. Am I super loud, or can you hear me?
No, it's perfect.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, so when I'm just looking at the maps and I'm not looking at any of the incumbency, which is going along with what Mr. Barry Smith was saying, my first choice would be the Lupine map. I'm looking at neighborhoods there, so I feel like that's the only map that truly does not slice Del Monte Park in half or thirds. It also respects the boundary for the folks who are going to be in the Del Monte Park area, and it keeps them all on the Forest Grove boundary line. So I feel like whoever their trustee is will be able to kind of best represent them. The Lupine map and the Del Monte Park area, has the highest, the Del Monte Park area, sorry, has the highest minority group. It's younger and has lots of children in that area. And so especially, I really focused on that when I was looking at that. So my vote would be for the Lupine map. And like I said, these maps will serve our community for the next 10 years. So I'm not really as concerned with myself as a trustee. I feel like I'm kind of a speck of dust in the lifetime of this district. And so I'm not trying to make a decision based on where I am, where I'm going to have to run, who I'm going to have to run with. So Lupine is my vote.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Trustee Brian Swanson.
I mean, they're all interesting, and I could argue in favor of any of these, really, as I look at it. It's, I think as we look at the variant or the deviation, I guess it's the deviation, right? It's like they're all pretty tight in there. I think that of all these different options, we've got great ones. I mean, almost more what I'm looking at really is which is the one that kind of looks the most, the most normal, like that we're not trying to draw a little bit of a loop around this or that in order to make it work. So, I mean, I'm kind of leaning towards, Cypress, or actually Lupine or Teal are the ones that feel the best, just as I'm looking at it. Although I don't mind silver either. I'm interested in hearing what the rest of what any public comment there might be on it, and then the remaining board members as well.
Can you tell me which one of those is teal up there, the color?
Teal
the
is
top.
the upper right.
Far right.
Yep.
Got it.
Yep.
Okay. Thank
And
you.
then Lupine is
I got that one,
center
middle bottom, right?
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so kind of along the same lines as Trustee Brian, definitely want to hear what the public comments are. And I'm settling, I think for me that we could drop 3 of those. And I think it's between teal and lupin. Just, I mean, from here without my glasses, it's a big blur, but teal looks the most compact and the borders are easily definable if you just look at the city of Pacific Grove. But I do understand the concerns of Del Monte Park. So looking down at Lupin, it's not as compact, but it's not terrible. It's interesting that Pebble Beach doesn't have its own area. And it's also interesting that that area, I think it's number 5, you could be at one end and as the crow flies, go to the other end and fly over the other 4 areas. So it looks a little gerrymandered. So it sounds like these are just observations. I'm not trying to make arguments for or against it. I'm just making my observations. And I like how Trustee Carolyn mentioned how that has a certain population, a particular population in our area. And I think that means that we're not supposed to isolate. I mean, not what that means, but aren't we supposed to make sure that we don't isolate one group? So
Who are you isolating? Pebble Beach, you mean?
no, Del Monte Park. She's saying that has the highest population of younger families in there. And if we were to split it, again, between the 2, I'm just looking at teal and lupin, then where teal splits Del Monte Park seems like a natural split in Del Monte Park. If you use the little store as north or south of that, then I mean that's definitely a natural split in that neighborhood. Yeah, so I'm leaning towards teal. Again, I'm just like Trustee Carolyn, I'm not looking at, my battles. So I like those 2, lupin and teal. I'm leaning more towards teal because it just seems more compact and yeah.
And I appreciate that after there were comments that there's some added maps there. I tend to like the latter part. I think the lupin, to me, it doesn't feel gerrymandered. It feels like it's kind of blocked. And I understand with the population, the beige, does spread across a large area, but that's due to just the layout of the area. It does sound more like lupin and teal are there. And if we're going to go forward with a couple of them, I think that's kind of a pretty smart break there. And we are all eager to hear what the public has to say at this time. So can we move to that now? Okay, so if we might please have public comment on this. I couldn't hear, but. Okay, Sharon, please.
Okay, at the last look at the maps, when there were just 4, I liked the teal. But with the 3 new maps, I think I am probably going with the lupin. My comments are broken down into 4. Well, I have 4 comments. The first one is a question, but I'm going to wait for you to answer that, after we've had the public comment. And that is that area 3 on the Lupine map looks a little oddly shaped. And there's probably a reason for that, but I just wonder what it is. The second thing is I'm a tiny bit concerned that the Lupine map has the highest population deviation, but of course the 7.15 is within the allowed 10%. Now, one of the biggest reasons I like this one is that I see that area 4 has a high minority population, is younger with a lot of children. They may be able to elect a trustee who reflects their needs and wishes for that reason. If they were split up, they might not have that voting power to get someone who really reflects their community of interest. And then the fourth comment I have is regarding incumbency. I know that the trustees would not have taken on this difficult and sometimes, well, it's just a very difficult job to serve on a school board, especially nowadays, unless you thought you were the best person for the job. So it's sort of hard to think, I don't want a map that's going to move me out of my role that I've put my heart and soul into. But actually, since these maps are going to last for 10 years, that shouldn't be, incumbency shouldn't be the overriding concern. It's very likely that within that 10-year period, you're going to go on and be doing something else. So if you would, step back from what your natural inclination is that, oh, I want to make sure I preserve the incumbency, and think about, well, what's going to be best for the school district, for the kids, and maybe for yourself. So those are the ends of my comments, except to just commend you for taking this on and doing it in such a public, open way. Thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing your comments. Jennifer, please.
Hi, thank you. Good evening. Jennifer McNary here. I live in the Del Monte Park neighborhood of town. I have 2 kids in the district too, and I love my neighborhood. I would say if you walk around what is Del Monte Park, you will find we are our own little community within Pacific Grove. And I think in looking at these maps, we can also know that residents in Del Monte Park are historically underrepresented on our school board. Our school board doesn't typically reflect some of the minority and socioeconomically important groups that we should be considering when we're redistricting. We've listened to all of our district experts and professionals hired here talk about how important equity is in this process. And if we're looking at moving towards more equitable elections for everyone in our community, I think the Lupine Map boundary lines best create equitable voting solutions for the Del Monte Park neighborhood. And I would love to also encourage you to please get the word out to the public, not just families, about this process. People are not going to be happy to find out the way they voted is changed when they find out their candidate choices are limited, or they get a ballot, or they hear it around town. So let's mass campaign, mailers or public. I don't know what's left at this point, but we really need to make sure the whole community is involved. And thank you all for your time this evening.
Thank you, Ms. McNary. Anybody else? Okay. Well, so at this time, it sounds like there's definitely teal and lupine are the 2 most popular choices among the board. So bringing back those 2 sounds like the direction we would want to go to. Final decisions would be made March 3rd.
You're welcome to certainly come back to the board to finish this discussion before you close public hearing, if you like,
Okay,
for confirmation of what you're saying. It's up to you.
okay, let's do a confirmation once again.
Yeah, I agree with everything that was said.
Okay, so the lupine teal would be the
Lupine
2.
teal, uh-huh.
Same here. Yeah.
Okay, and trustee Carolyn Swanson?
Yeah, my vote is for the lupine. And do we want to, I heard something that one of the trustees said that is just categorically inaccurate for this process. Should we have Mr. Barry Smith just kind of chime in on communities of interest and how it's actually what we're supposed to be doing is keeping communities together so that they can have representation in our government? Or maybe I just explained it. I don't know, but
I think you kind of stated it.
that would be
So
okay.
not dividing areas to make sure, and I think Ms. McNary said that quite well also, that to make sure that certain segments within the city are definitely represented by voting. So if
Yeah.
they're sliced and diced, then they don't always have the voice that we are so eager to hear. culturally, socioeconomically, and I think she stated that quite well. So you would agree. Okay.
Perfect,
All
thank
right.
you.
Thank you. And I also would say Lupine and Teal, and those would be the two. So the board confirms that. Dr. Porras. Okay. So at this time, we close public hearing. All right. Public hearing is closed. Did that with a little more power. All right, next we're going to move on to action discussion. And one of our favorite topics over the last 2 very short years is the district update on the response to COVID-19. Thank you, Dr. Porras.
Thank you, Madam President. Not a ton here, but give me a moment to move from my minutes here to my paperwork. A couple of quick comments. Obviously, probably one of the biggest discussion items right now is the expiration of the mask mandate, indoor mask mandate from the state, which is coming shortly into next week. And I want to reiterate as much as I possibly can that in spite of there being the expiration of the mask mandate from the governor, there still are specific job areas, career areas, community areas that will require, that has not yet lost the requirement to have the mask mandate. K-12 schools is one of those. Retirement homes, hospitals, medical facilities. So all we have been told thus far is stay tuned, you'll get more information, but in the meantime, you still are required to have masks in spite of the other areas of the state no longer having to follow that requirement. This is not a choice of Pacific Grove Unified School District or Monterey Peninsula Unified or any other individual school district. This currently is what's coming down from the California Department of Public Health and the governor's office. We were on a conference call this morning with the California Department of Public Health, and they were very clear that at this point, stay fast, hold fast, stay tuned. More information will come. And so I'm asking the public to please have patience with us as we continue to follow our obligation by the law. I hope that we will have more clarity from the state soon. This is very reminiscent of the very opening days of COVID. Perhaps it's interesting to see. We've kind of come full circle. We're not really clear exactly what we're going to be told. We have an idea of it, but we're waiting to be told. So we will continue to follow and do as we are directed. So that being said, I will get information out as I know more. A key player in this entire COVID response program has, of course, been Nurse Powley. We acknowledge and appreciate her at every meeting, as we should. She continues to do amazing work. She couldn't be here this evening because she has family obligations and her son is playing basketball and she should be there with her family. But she did provide a few notes for me to share. And she also committed to making sure that sufficient and accurate information will get published when it's available. The first is that we do know that we are continuing to order and keep a stock of masks and other mitigation tools available. She's been working very closely with Josh Dorn at the Monterey County Office of Education. So we have plenty of masks and other items to keep us moving forward in whatever requirement we may have. So she's continuing to make those orders. We are continuing to offer our on-site rapid tests. Nurse Powley and I met a couple of weeks ago prior to the first break. We made sure that we ordered ahead when we could to purchase sufficient tests to be available for students who come back from the remaining 2 breaks that we have left. So on the 21st, when we returned from the President's break, that is a teacher professional development day, we will have teams handing out the test kits to families and staff as we did previously. And again, during the spring, after the spring break. So that will continue. I do want to reiterate that we do have a supply of those rapid tests available at sites. If the need occurs, a family needs to have a rapid test for whatever reason, or if a teacher requests one for some students, or if something happens at site that we need to do that, those are still available. I would direct you to our district website under the COVID resources. I want to applaud and thank Principal and Director Barbara Martinez who did a lot of work to update and revise the current COVID safety plan that has now been updated with all the directives that we have. So please take a look at those when you get a chance. I think we have just a couple of translations that we need to do, but that's available for you. As Nurse Powley warns, and as I would warn, it is a lengthy document. And it's that way because we're trying to make it as comprehensive as we possibly can. So please do the best to navigate. We try to make it as easy as possible to do so. Also, take a look on that website. We have some basic COVID-19 exposure information that's in English and in Spanish. Those are those flow charts and check sheets that enable a parent to say, okay, so there was an exposure. My child had this happen. What should I do next? That's what those are. Those have been updated for you. And Nurse Powley's also, I think today, just submitted another update on the FAQ sheet that's part of the COVID safety plan. So that's happening and available. The district office continues to offer the Optum Serve PCR testing here at the district office Monday mornings, Mondays 9 to 5. We do want to note, however, next week, the week after, excuse me, to support the holiday, on the 21st, there will not be testing here. It will happen on Tuesday. So that's just a little bit of change of a schedule. I talked a little bit about the take-home kit distribution. So they will be available at all the sites. And so take a look at that, and we'll get some more information out to the district families on the district newsletter tomorrow prior to the break. Let's see here. The pool testing program is continued. I feel like I should have like a so PCR pool testing is continuing to happen at our sites on the schedules that we've put on. There have been a few, I know, kind of missteps, and we apologize for those, but we'll continue to offer those each of the days as we have scheduled. And those will be also provided on the newsletter, so we won't go over each directly. We will say that we have been very pleased to see, for the most part, the pool test results have been coming back negative. We do occasionally get a student or two that come back, and the point of those tests are to be able to have us react. So we've done that. And I'm going to end it with that. We are keeping a close eye on everything. Again, as I started in the comments earlier in the meeting, we appreciate everybody's patience and understanding and support. This has not been easy. All of the superintendents in the county today in our meeting were talking about just these last 2 years. And it has been very hard for everyone. Who it's been most hard on, of course, are our students. And we're trying to do the very best we can by them and to provide them as much resources as possible. We do know that as we hopefully exit out of a lot of these mandates, we're going to continue to take a very close tabs on how our students are doing, to talk with them, ask them how they're doing in surveys and just in the conversations with them, and to provide the need, whatever we can for them. And I think our counselor, mental health counselor at the high school will also be supportive of that as they continue to work with that need and that new staffing. So any concerns or questions in regards to COVID, please feel free to contact me or Nurse Powley. Our information is available on the COVID website. And that concludes my report for this evening.
Okay, thank you so very much. All right, board comments about this. Trustee Carolyn Swanson.
Hi, sorry, it took me a second to unmute. Thank you for your update, Dr. Portas. I do have a question. It's kind of looking ahead, and you may have already had conversations about it. It's summer programs, summer school, credit recovery time, as well as special education, extended school year. Is there any information on that? I just feel like we need to kind of plan really far ahead. So I'm hoping that you've got something on that.
I can answer that. We are indeed talking about that. We spoke about that at our last management team. So we are working on trying to divide the best plan we possibly can. Our hope is to provide what we have been providing. The greatest focus, of course, has been on credit recovery for our secondary sites, and then to look for intervention and hopefully some kind of social support, social emotional support for our students over the summer. The program will continue to be very streamlined and very specific for intervention. All of the data that we have been collecting is informing us on who those students are, and we'll get a better picture as we get closer to the summertime. But what we normally have had in place, we're hoping to continue to offer with a few little extras as we can. I want to acknowledge Director Davies in particular, who runs the summer school program for the most part. She has done a tremendous job. And while I know she focuses greatly on special education, she does a great work and focusing on all the students' needs for the summer program. So we'll have more for you, Trustee Carolyn, as we continue that conversation.
Thank you so much. Those are all my questions.
Thank you. Trustee Brian Swanson.
No questions, just an appreciation again of the continued thorough updates. I know it's still whack-a-mole for some of this stuff. It feels like it's settled down a little bit, which is nice, but you never know what's coming. And I know that you guys are prepared to do whatever needs to be done with any surprises that come along. So thank you.
Thank you.
My only question was about the mask that you already answered. So thank you. I'm feeling a little cautiously optimistic about the future. Let's just hope trends keep on going the way they're going.
Agreed. And I just want to reiterate that when you put on the nightly news and at the top of the stories too often are school board meetings that go awry and the animosity that is so often felt around this topic, just how thankful we are to be in this district. And even though it is a hardship for everyone, especially the students, that we are, I think, so diligent at just trying to do the right thing and take good care of our kids and keep them in school. So huge thank you to everybody for that. Are there any public comments at this time? Wow, thank you so much. There's no action necessary?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so we will move on right now, please, to the approval of Measure A, Ed Tech Bond in the Educational Technology Expenditures. And Mr. Matthew Binder has taken the podium.
Good evening, Matthew Binder, Director of Ed Tech for the district. And as we do twice annually, we bring a list that has been vetted by our core tech team as well as our district level tech committee to you with a description of the various technology requests that have been made over the last 6 months or so. And to stay within the budget, the allocated amount, which is now somewhere on the order of $330,000 per 6 months. We try to keep under that and provide a little bit of a wiggle room for some urgent technology requests that come our way. So as you can see there from the list, the various requests, the various technology expenditures range from software to hardware to management services, just everything that is needed to keep the district moving forward that is related to technology. I'm here to answer any questions you might have about any particular item that has made this list. And just know that it has been well reviewed and approved across by the entire committee before it is brought to you for approval.
Okay, thank you so much. Board comments. Trustee Brian Swanson.
Just a quick observation, which I think is impressive, as I look at your pie chart under repair services, you've got 1.5%, which I think is pretty great, considering all of what you're having to deal with and all the hands that touch it. That you're only at 1.5% is awesome. So.
Yeah, that's external services for that. Thank you.
Okay. Dr. Frank.
Yeah, no warning flags pop up. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Trustee Carolyn Swanson.
Yeah, thanks, Christy. This is pretty straightforward. I don't have any questions or comments on it.
I think we all concur. Nice, succinct, thorough, and it's very much appreciated when you apprise us of what's taking place. So thank you for being here tonight and sharing that. Public comment? Seeing none. Okay, so we will move forward. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion for approval of Measure A, Ed Tech Bond Education Technology Expenditures as presented.
Second.
Okay, the motion was made by Trustee Brian Swanson and seconded by Dr. Frank Rivera. Roll call vote, please.
President Dawson,
Aye.
Vice President Rivera,
Aye.
Trustee Brian Swanson,
Aye.
Trustee Carolyn Swanson.
Aye.
The motion passes 4-0. Moving forward to what used to be D, which is now C, because we're using the alphabet as we learned early on. We will now move to board calendar and future meetings.
Thank you, Madam President.
We're quizzing you
I
tonight.
believe we had one change on the calendar. If you allow me a moment here. We wanted to switch or to move the budget projections and assumptions from March 17
Oh,
to
yeah.
March 3. And I did highlight that. Your color version would have yellow.
Yes.
Your black and white version would have a shade of gray. That's the only change that we have so far. If the board's okay with that, we do need a motion and a second and a vote.
Okay, any comments at this time, Dr. Frank?
No comments.
Trustee Brian Swanson?
No comment from me.
Trustee
Thank you.
Carolyn Swanson?
Nope.
None here either, so motion, please.
Public comment on that?
I'm so sorry, public comment. This is a quiet night in the neighborhood. Okay, now we'll take a motion. I will move that we accept the board calendar and future meetings with the change that Dr. Porras showed us.
I'll second that.
Roll call vote. Oops, the motion was made by Christy Dawson, seconded by Brian Swanson. Roll call vote.
President Dawson,
Aye.
Vice President Rivera,
Aye.
Trustee Brian Swanson.
Aye.
Trustee Carolyn Swanson.
Aye.
Okay. We made a move, and the next one I think was going to be the Billy contract. Is that what's we were going to do next under action?
That is correct, Madam President, and I believe Director Mankey is available to answer any questions or present as you see fit.
Okay. Director Mankey, can you please address this?
Are we addressing the consent item?
Yeah, that got
Classified
moved. Correct. Yeah, classified assignment order 11.
Okay, the reason we moved this and is because we revised it to bring it forward again. We had a resignation this morning, and so we put that resignation on this consent item. And the board members each have a copy of this. I can go on and give more detail. The resignation is from Director Kelly in Facilities and Transportation. He will be leaving us after 7 years in this district on February 25th. And while I'm speaking, so I don't have to come back, I just want to thank him for his 7 years of work. He has done incredible things in this district and maintaining our district. And you all have seen his work. The public sees his work, and we're just very grateful and appreciative. So thank you, Matt. I wish you well in your future endeavors.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. Board comments, please. Dr. Frank Rivera.
I just want to add to the gratitude that Ms. Mankey had. So thank you so much, Director, for all the work that you've done for our community.
Yeah, I'll echo that. I think about however half a dozen years now, I think that I've been doing this, or 6 or 7 or something like that. Who's counting, except for my wife. And and so often with Director Kelly too, it's been crisis management. It's like Matt usually doesn't get a call from somebody saying, hey, everything is great today. I just wanted you to know. It's a potential leaking gas lines on the middle school roof, or lead paint at the adult school, or elevator shaft that's flooded. And there never seemed to be a problem that he couldn't find an answer to. So I really appreciated that. And he approached things often with, kind of a sense of humor about it all too, which I really appreciated, because sometimes it's like you got to either laugh or cry about some of those things. So he's really going to be missed. I wish him luck in his future endeavors. And yeah, he'll be missed. Sorry to see him go.
Thank you so much. Trustee Carolyn Swanson?
Yes, of course. Matt Kelly will be absolutely missed. His presentations were some of my favorites at the board meetings. Not to mention all the work he did keeping our kids and our schools and our teachers and our staff safe. So thank you very much, Director Kelly. You'll be missed.
I concur as far as the presentations. I've enjoyed how thorough they are. And as he walks us through things, I think with all the bond that we passed and the needs for updating what's been going on, and also his work with Song as far as breaking things into kind of bite-sized pieces that we can understand and listing them and prioritizing them has been invaluable. So a huge thank you to you, Director Kelly, and I'm echoing everybody else. Best of luck in your future endeavors. So thank you. Dr. Porras?
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to say a couple words, and I know that Assistant Superintendent Jim Ben-Dib wants to speak as well. I also want to appreciate Director Kelly and for all the work that he's done. And first and foremost, all the work that he's done for our students. Aside from having his own children in our district, he has always looked out for all of the students in our district. He's always asked the hard questions about safety, always ask the hard questions about what are the next steps that we need to do it for them. And I've commented on this before, and I will continue to comment on it. His advice and his input regarding matters of curriculum and instruction were just as valuable and important as the comments that he made regarding facilities and maintenance during retreats or admin meetings. He would bring up research that he's done or spoke with family members who have done, and his opinion was invaluable for us. And obviously the work with the bond, he took on the COVID safety plan first and foremost and just grabbed that beast by the horns and took care of it way at the get-go. So we will certainly miss him here. He leaves a legacy in the facilities that our students will enjoy for many years to come. And Matt, we really appreciate you. So thank you. And Song, if you'd like to chime in, now's a good time.
Thank you. Yes, I'd like to thank Director Matt Kelly for his years of service, devoted actually service to our school district. You know, because of his diligence, talents, and skills, we were able to get a good start on the Measure D projects. And also I really appreciate his participation and insights, you know, during all the negotiations we had with CSEA. He's always provides a balance to the administration as well as to the staff, giving a very balanced perspective. While President Dawson talked about his presentation, I have to say, I'm still working on catching up to his amazing presentation animation skills. So, well, thank you, Matt. Good luck.
Thank you. Public comment at this time? Seeing none. So do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion to approve by Dr. Frank Rivera, seconded by Brian Swanson. Roll call vote, please.
President Dawson,
Aye.
Vice President Rivera,
Aye.
Trustee Brian Swanson,
Aye.
Trustee Carolyn Swanson.
Aye.
The motion carries 4-0. Our final action item tonight is the contract for services with Belly Architectural Group.
Thank you, Madam.
And-
Okay, there you go. Go ahead, Song.
All right, thank you. I'll do an introduction. Since tonight the board approved the resignation of Director Kelly. You know, even absent of that, we heard about a shortage of labor or workers. We are not exempt from that. We in the midst of hiring drivers, and we still have a key maintenance and operational position that's yet to be filled. So Director Kelly has personally, been installing blinds, doing work, helping with maintenance work. So with that, we have to catch up with our Measure D projects. We're about 4 or 5 weeks behind. And if we were to do our phase 2, this year 2 for us, we started out last year with Measure D. in the summer, we have to get going. So that's why we are really asking the board to approve a contract of service with Daily Architectural Company. They intimately know our district well, so it's really helpful for someone to step in to really know about people, the practices, all the various facets of our operations. So it's up to amount, up to $20,000. And the format, I probably can share this because it's the first time we're using this really good, and legal has reviewed this, consultant services agreement. And we present it tonight. Let me see here. Can you see this?
Yes.
Okay. If not, I'm in another size. So it just, again, this is a much more really comprehensive format that we have for consultant services, and we'll share with our administrative group, and we'll start using this for consultant agreement going forward. The company is Valley Architectural Group, and the dollar amount is $20,000. Here are the key elements of this contract. And what we're asking is commencement period is February 11th, starting tomorrow. Doesn't mean that they'll come on board tomorrow. It just as soon as the board has approved this, we'll like to have conversations and meetings with them, with this architectural group. I'm just scrolling down. Hopefully I don't make you dizzy. This is a blank that we have to fill out. And then it says we put it on to June 30th, 2023. Again, it's on as needed. This is up to amount, and it just will use their service to fill into during this transition period and fill in any gaps as needed. And the rates and services provided is already in the board packet. It shows the rates. The rest is just critical elements of this service agreement showing liability and also protection clauses for both parties. And also showing the representatives of each party, the district, and also the consultant who is responsible, who is the main contact person. And also critical documents that they have provided, obviously signed agreement, but also fingerprinting, criminal background investigation certification that we require of every consultant, W-9 for tax purposes, for tax reporting purposes. The only thing that we don't have at this point is a type of business entity. We'll have to double check with them. We believe is a partnership, but we'll confirm that if the board allows us to approve this, we'll check it off and we'll post it tomorrow on our website to make sure it is really checking off the right status of the business. And then with that, Director Kelly, I think is on right now. Any questions from the board?
We'll go ahead and start.
I don't have any. This is straightforward and necessary, and I see no reason to not move forward with it. Appreciate the presentation.
Okay.
No questions.
Trustee Carolyn Swanson.
Yeah, just a comment. I appreciate this this type of proactiveness, like you were saying, Song, before. It's just kind of serendipitous that this is here now, knowing that now Director Kelly is only here with us until February 25th, but at least this will kind of help get some momentum going that is no fault of our own department's lack of trying. It's really just short-staffedness and a lack of resources, including time. So I appreciate this whole situation, and I'm excited to hear what Director Kelly has to say, if anything.
Okay, I want to concur and echo what everybody's already said. If the comment that we're 4 weeks, 5 weeks behind, it's great that we are very proactive with this and getting on top of it. And tomorrow's date, as you say, they may not be there, but we can start rolling. So thank you so much for that, Song. Were we going to ask a comment of Director Kelly? I don't know, they've mentioned. Would you like to make a comment, Director Kelly?
All right, can you hear me?
Yeah, we sure can. Thank you.
First, I'd like to say thank you for all the kind words. I apologize. I was driving back from senior night from the stadium and I couldn't hop on, but I heard everything. So thank you very much. Yeah, I think just what Song said, David Peartree, I've been working with him for the entire time I've been here, and he's done some fabulous things. He's done all of our portables. He's helped us with playgrounds. He's helped us with ADA issues, and he knows the district. He knows how to bid the things that are coming our way. I've already had discussions with him on how to get things up to speed. And obviously I knew what I was doing weeks ago, so I kind of started putting this stuff into place so I wouldn't leave the district without getting to summer projects. So I think he's a great guy. He's going to be really good for the summer projects for this year until that void is filled.
I appreciate you getting on and speaking to us, and I'm glad, even though you were in the car, that you got to hear the comments. That's wonderful. Are there any public comments at this point? Okay, I move that we accept the contract for services with Belly Architectural Group.
Second.
Okay, the motion was made by Christy Dawson, seconded by Dr. Frank Rivera. Could we please have a vote?
President Dawson.
Aye.
Vice President Rivera.
Aye.
Trustee Brian Swanson.
Aye.
Trustee Carolyn Swanson.
Bye.
The measure carries 4-0. We're moving along at a quick clip, and we are now going into information discussion. And if we could hear now about the health course at Pacific Grove High School, we'll hear from Principal Garcia.
All right, per board request, we're bringing forward some information in regards to our health curriculum, which takes place within our 9th grade PE classes. And we have online Shane Steinbach, our assistant principal, who oversees our physical education department, and Mrs. Donna O'Donnell, who teaches our 9th grade PE courses and is heavily involved in the development and implementation of the health curriculum. So I would ask that the two of them speak to what we currently are doing in our classes, and then open it up to any questions or discussions that the board would like to take from there. So with that, Mrs. O'Donnell, Mr. Steinbach.
Good evening, board members. I'm Donna O'Donnell, and I am the physical education and health teacher at Pacific Grove High School. We have incorporated health into physical education. So we teach health 1 day a week on Mondays. And we cover a broad spectrum of, topics. And it covers basically the physical health, mental health, and social health. In physical health, we talk about personal fitness, nutrition, the body systems like digestion and the bones, skeletal system, muscular system, and all that jazz. And then social health, we talk about relationships in society, communication, peer pressure, and bullying. We also go into some, Twitter and stuff, all that techno, like how to be safe online behavior. We go into that too. Mental health, we discuss mental illness, strategies to reduce anxiety and depression, and also suicide. We have guest speakers come in and discuss and cover this more in depth. We also address alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs. We have sex education and basic first aid. So that's our health class in a nutshell. We try to, it's a broad brush, but we touch on it, just about everything.
Thanks, Ms. O'Donnell, and Shane Steinbach, assistant principal at the high school. The only thing I'll add is Donna's great with the kids. She invited me in earlier this year, and she had a representative from the National Alliance on Mental Health. And I was going to stick around for maybe 20 minutes, and I think I stayed the whole time. It was fantastic. The kids were engaged. And the person that Donna picked out was fantastic and went over all of the different resources that NAMI has to offer for us here on the peninsula. So great job, Donna.
And Mrs. O'Donnell, could you speak to how many class periods approximately you spend on health curriculum with our students?
Gosh, well, I mean, 1 day a week with each class. And so we meet, gosh, how many weeks a year do we meet? What, 35 weeks maybe? So 35 times a year, approximately, give and take, holidays, a lot of Mondays off.
Thank you.
Welcome.
So that's, as Mrs. O'Donnell and Mr. Steinbeck said, this, brief overview of what we currently offer at PG High. So with that, I'd like to open up to any questions or comments from the board.
Okay, thank you so much. Trustee Brian Swanson, questions?
No questions. I'm glad we have it at all. I wish it was more, but I know choices have to be made. I mean, I remember when I was a wee lad, and it was just a regular class, and PE was separate too. But things have changed. I'm glad we still have it. I'm glad all these different things are being addressed, especially mental health and trying to be safe on the internet and all of those things. So appreciate the presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for letting us know what goes on. I agree with Trustee Brian that I wish we had a little bit more of it. I think it was in science class when I took this portion in my education. I'm so pleased to hear that you do cover proper use of social media. Trustee Brian brought up the Facebook files that were the podcast that he recommended, and I listened to it, and it is frightful. So, and then we know teachers across America are wondering what the next TikTok challenge is going to be. We know the destruction that could bring on. So I'm so glad that that's part of the curriculum, and please continue with that. Thank you.
Trustee Carolyn Swanson.
Thank you, President Dawson. Miss O'Donnell, this is the first time I've remember you speaking to the board. I don't know if you've ever done this before.
I haven't.
Okay. I've only been coming to board meetings for about 5 years, so I was like, maybe before that time. I just want to tell you, you did a really good job. It was really succinct, but also informative. And I'm sure you were thinking about this all day, so I really appreciate your efforts. My only question would be, because we have this opportunity with you here, is what can we do to support you more? Because I feel like there's always this one little thing we can do. So is there anything that comes to your mind that we can put on maybe a future agenda to address some of your needs?
Well, right now we hold class in the dance room, and it would be nice to have a dedicated space for health with tables and I don't know. Anyway, I don't know, but we have materials, we have everything at our fingertips. The internet's amazing as far as garnishing material that I need for school, and the kids are real adaptable. So I can't think of too much more, but there's always more that can be done, I guess. But anyway.
Yeah,
but thanks.
I appreciate you teaching that. It must be fascinating and very interesting to teach the high school kids all these topics. So thank you very much.
Yeah, they're sure lively.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Okay, I had a couple of questions. What's the average size you're dealing with in the PE class?
It ranges from 35 to 40.
Okay, and yeah, one of my questions was going to be about dedicated space, because when you're having conversations, and I'm such a fan of health, especially during COVID, because so much is about social, emotional, and it's the perfect opportunity in a wider audience to spread information about what resources are out there for kids. I know, having lost a couple of students to suicide, it was so incredibly important that it allowed students sometimes to come and mourn or talk about friends they were concerned about. So I would love to see that as spaces where kids are not sitting on the floor in a dance room or something, where it's a little easier to manipulate the room for maybe more intimate discussions and group work. So that'd be something I would be interested in. And also support wise, I like that you're bringing people in from the outside for conversations. I mean, we're big in this district with very small classes. And this is obviously double the size of so many classes. And yet the things you're discussing are so big. So I'm delighted that it's happening. I think it's so important. And I'm hoping counselors, are they sometimes able to be employed working with you, with the kids and making connections with them?
Yes, definitely. They've come in and spoken with the kids, and we have outreach from Alcohol Anonymous. I mean, different the organizations. We always have a guest speaker representing one of the organizations. So it's really pretty comprehensive, you know, and we do have the counselors involved. Like I said, the kids are familiar with who they are, and our administrators, of course. So,
well, that's just wonderful. I love the people coming in, and what I agree, whatever we can do to support, because it to me, as we add counselors and say, how do we take care of our kids? This intervention is at the top of the list for importance and the ability to reach the most kids in the best manner, other than one-on-ones here and there. So thank you for your good work, and thank you so much for coming in. Yes.
I just want to, I'm glad that this, just the space element of this got brought up, because it was something that hadn't really occurred to me at all, that you guys are having to do this stuff where, you know, it sounds like you don't really have an adequate space to do it, you know, or an appropriate place to do it. So yeah, I would love to take a look at that and see if there's a way we can help out in some way to do that. And then, so there's that. And then just to come back on what I touched on a little bit before, but I'm thinking about all these different things that you guys are having to touch on and how it's changed over the years, where it just used to be, it's like, how does your body work?
The
and
heart,
then we're going to blow through sex
stomach.
ed as quickly as we can, right? It was the way it used to be. And now it's like social media, mental health, and drugs and alcohol. And there's a whole lot to unpack there. It's astounding, and I appreciate, I'm sure, all the effort that has to go into this to try to touch on all these subjects. So
Agreed. Anything else to add? Okay. Anything else to add? Trustee Carolyn?
No, thank you.
Okay, if we could open up any public comment?
Beth Shamas. Yeah, I think this health, the amount of subjects you're covering under health is ridiculous for one day a week. And is it just for the freshman year? Is it only?
It's in the middle school as well?
Well, it should be every year, and it should be a requirement. We're at this level now where I think we understand that these issues are more important than just an add-on to PE. And that's where we still have it, as an add-on to PE. So I think that deserves another look at curriculum, and where, you know, how do you incorporate these big subjects into a mandatory curriculum?
Yeah. Thank you for your comments. So any other public? So I would say that what I'm hearing is, first of all, commending the effort done. So thank you. But also the direction would be that if it could be looked at as a possibility of where, if there's any room or something, I mean, obviously it can't be one room all day for once a week, but perhaps when teachers have a period off, that there might be places that these students might go that would be more conducive to learning and discussions. It's something, if that's possible to kind of think about, that'd sure be great.
Absolutely.
Okay, anything else direction wise? Thank you for sharing this. I just think it's so important, and it's very comforting to hear what good work is being done on behalf of our kids, especially during this time. Thank you for sharing that.
Of course.
I think
I got.
you're the next topic.
got one
Okay,
more.
well, that's okay. That's right. Pgusd Board Regulation 5121, withdrawal from classes.
So currently, as the policy reads, there on the cover letter, students have 28 calendar days from the start of each semester to drop a course. If they drop the course, as policy currently stands, after the 28th calendar day, they receive an F for that particular course. So that's the policy as it stands right now. So open it up to comments, questions.
Yeah, I'll start speaking about this because this is something I brought up previously and I care about. I worry sometimes at the beginning of the semester, if a student is actually going through something traumatic, a parent has cancer or a divorce, or there's something pretty rough, I think kids can get off track. I've also seen them, I know in other districts, they wait until 5 weeks before the end of the semester and allow that student, I think of it as academic redemption. I mean, and sometimes it takes some tutoring or help with counselors or teacher or working with that kid. So I felt this was early and harsh, and I'm wondering what the difference is. I mean, if it allows a kid a chance, a fail is a fail, and you don't want that on your transcript. It also sounds like it puts a lot of pressure on the principal, because the principal or designee, because of extenuating circumstances. So there would be some pleading of cases, I'm sure parental pressure. I would imagine saying, you know, don't do this to my kid, you're ruining their life. So I'm wondering if changing that date, I would really like to just hear from other board members and from you, if it has to be so early on. And if a student, if they drop that class, where do they go? That's the next thing. They don't just get to, oh, I'll roll into physics CAP because I've got a hole in my schedule. They usually then have a hole in their schedule and they're not learning. And if they're in a classroom setting and have the opportunity to at least continue absorbing information and education, I just think it benefits. I'm not counting a disruptive, horrible kid kind of thing, but somebody who has a chance at doing better. So that's kind of my question that I'm posing. If that, what I know you've been in other districts, what you might think about that. That's ultimately what I'm wondering.
Well, I'm curious how do we compare to other districts? If you can, if you know, and I don't know, it's totally acceptable answer too. We can always find out.
So maybe look at other districts and ask.
Yeah, unless you know offhand how we compare to other districts, and I can't imagine, I wouldn't expect you to. I think it's worth looking into just on a comparative basis, how we are with everybody else.
Do you want me to answer as we go along, or wait
Sure,
till the
go
end?
ahead and answer, because
Sure,
I think
sure.
this is just kind of a dialogue and
Right.
picking your brain about what you think.
So a couple of things. One, we are definitely open to expanding the time. We want to ensure that we have enough data for students and staff to make an appropriate determination if a student should drop the course or not. I don't have a comparison as it stands right now, but again, open to expanding it for sure. I also view it, there's a difference between dropping a course and transferring from a course. So an example, if we're in a honors chem class and a student is struggling academically, we've made the appropriate interventions, and ultimately it's decided that the student should maybe go to the grade level chem class. I don't consider that a drop.
No.
Just transferring from one level to another, and it could be from gen ed chem to honors chem. It can go both ways. And there is no time limit on that. Okay, so that's an open area for students to make the appropriate choice with staff and family input. What we're referring to here is just dropping the course completely. And it does create some scheduling challenges depending on where that course falls in the student's schedule and also the grade level of the student. So we have our freshmen and sophomores, they have required number of courses. The juniors and seniors, their required number of courses, is reduced. So it kind of makes this a little easier if it's an upperclassman in making those decisions that they're going to drop within their daily schedule. So there is flexibility already built into it, but again, there could be more flexibility with an extension of the time.
Okay, thank you. I'm eager to push that a little bit more as far as what you think is doable. What do you think, Trustee Frank?
Yeah, so you made the comments I was going to make, and you asked the question I was going to ask. You stole my thunder. No.
Sorry, I get so
No,
excited.
that's great. We're all thinking the same thing. At MPC, we have over 2 months before someone can drop, and that's I wouldn't say that this is where we need to go, but life happens, and that should be considered and not just thrown on your shoulders to be able to weigh life circumstances. So it should be something that we should consider, and we definitely need to look at how we compare to other districts, especially local districts.
Absolutely.
Trustee Carolyn, do you have comments?
Yeah, I do. Thanks, Christy. So I looked up while we were on the meeting. I just went over to MPUSD's policy and looked up theirs. Theirs is the first 3 weeks of the semester, and I just also noted, because this is a board regulation, theirs is a lot more thorough than our existing one. So I would almost say that when we do our policy and regulation overhaul, that we bring this back, and that's the types of things that we're going to be looking at, from my understanding, at that workshop, where we go one by one and we say, how can we make these better, and we compare with other districts. Is that correct, Ralph?
Yes, that's correct. And yeah, and you're right. Most districts follow this very similar suit.
Yeah, my question, I guess, to Ralph, and maybe we do this also at the workshop, is just if this is somehow regulated by ed code, or if we do have the flexibility. So I think this is all great stuff for our policy workshop.
Okay, I agree. I know in Palo Alto, they I guess because they were next to Stanford, the kids could drop as they're walking into the final and get a no pass, or get an F or whatever, but they stayed all the way up. In my past district, Mountain View, Los Altos, we did a lot of research on this. We ended up, I think, 6 weeks before the end of the semester. I don't know how it hurts. Again, I'm not talking a disruptive student that is destroying your classroom because they have no chance to pass, but a kid that is in kind of a dire straits and needs a little more time, or I'm talking about other people being ill, but we know they can get sick, or they can have things happen to them that preclude them kind of being on their game. So I'm not sure how we do this. Is it possible, maybe just direction, that's something you guys look at?
Absolutely.
And if it helps the kid, I don't see how it hurts. And you brought up, which I wasn't specific enough, a 9th grader with holes in their schedule is not a pretty thing. And the other thing you talked about of going to the alternative setting, brilliant. I mean, you always want to do that with a kid to make sure they're in the optimum environment. And I've seen it, just like you said, they're bumped up because this isn't challenging enough, and vice versa. So that's a wonderful thing. But this, I would just love that it's looked at a little bit and discussed, because I don't know why it would be bad to give a kid more time.
So we'll take this back to my leadership team. We'll do some research. We'll look at all the options, and before the school year is over, we'll bring back our recommendation. And then if we can, get the changes made prior to the start of next school year, that would benefit our students immediately.
I just appreciate it so much. And I thank you for exploring it and looking at it, because so often we say, well, that's how it is. But it's good to look and say, why is it like that? And who does it serve? So thank you for sharing with us so much tonight. No public comment, right? That's the order of tonight. All right. Thank
Right.
you.
Thank you very
so
much.
much for coming, Mr. Garcia. I appreciate it so much. And we look forward to hearing back from you. All right, we're on to item C, which is a review of Pgusd COVID-19 relief funding and cumulative spending as of December 31st, 2021.
Thank you, President Dawson. We have been updating the board with COVID spending, quarterly COVID spending. And this is the actual expenditures as of December 31st. Before I show you, go into the detail, I'd like to show you the board cover. This is on the board cover, is on page, I believe, 96. Just real quick summary. What we put down here is round 1, round 2, and round 3. But obviously within each round of funding, there's so many subsets. So round 1, as you can see, is completely spent. And you add up those 5 items, is a little bit over $1.1 million. So this is how much we've spent, on PPEs, learning loss mitigations, or support services, such as classified staff, non-supervision, or classified support for intervention. So there's all services that we have spent within this qualified expenditures within the realm, all the fundings within round 1. We're now into round 2 and round 3. Just a real quick summary of the total of round 2 and 3 is a little bit, it's almost close to $3.7 million. And we're going to look at each one of this. For example, round 2, the primary source is SO2, round 3, SO3, but also AB 86, which one of the primary sources is ELO, which is Expanded Learning Opportunities Grant. So this is on the board cover. And now I'm going to go into the little bit more details here. We talked about earlier round 1, they're not here anymore, but if you look at the website, they are on a website as of September 30th, and in September, or before that was as of June 30th last fiscal year. And a lot of them, actually a lot of the money was already spent last fiscal year. So this is for December 31st. I just want to emphasize that this, what was spent is actually what was spent, was payout in issuing checks and cash, paying checks. This is not encumbered, because the accounting is going to be much more complex if we show what is encumbered or what was encumbered here. Round 2, real quickly, a synopsis. The total is $548,000 in change. $360,000 was spent last year, and the balance for this year, $187 for 21-22. But I won't go into details. The board, the public, you can see all the items we've spent. Very needed and very appropriate expenditures. So within the $187,000 for this year, we have, as of December 31st, $82,976. And I can guarantee you this is not $82,000 as of today. It's a lot already has been spent since January 1st. Going to round 3, this is SO3. This is the total estimated from the CDEs, a little bit over $1.2 million. But out of that, 20% must be reserved for learning loss. And we have very detailed accounting in our books to show that. In here, you can see it's broken down into what we call resource codes and into different budget codes, object codes, and so on and so on. I'm just going down to the balance. As of December 31st, a little bit over $1.1 million to be spent. And we also keep track of by deadlines. Round 1 obviously would be those funding funding allocations, they have a deadline and we spend the money first. And going to round 2 in here, I'm going to scroll down a little bit up here. With this one, we have it until they extended the deadline to, I believe it's 2023. We didn't put down here, and we can add that in the next quarter of presentation to the board. But round 3, this has been changed. It's been extended to September 30th, 2024, which helps a lot. We talked about earlier about learning loss, about interventions, the money, instead of just chunk it into one short period, we can plan ahead, we can do better and strategize based on our needs, and really can really help us carry into not just next fiscal year, into the following fiscal year as well. I'm going to jump into AB 86. This is, there are 2 parts. There are what we call IPA, the in-person instructional grants, and also the ELO, expanded learning grant. This AB 86, the maximum amount is $617,735, but this is the one that based on when we started school in-person instruction. So we started, if you recall, a couple of days later than allowed, or then when the date was opened. So we will get our funding a little bit less as well. It's not a whole lot, but still a little bit less than what the maximum. It's about a little bit over $592,000. Now, this money can be spent on salaries and support staff expenditures, and it has been accounted for negotiations. This is not something that we have extra sitting out there. And in order for us to be able to talk about salary increases, something this has been accounted for. The next subset A and B that we call that under AB 86 in person, the next group is the ELO, expanded learning opportunity. And there's so many money changes. It's one of the really complex accounting within each of these groups. And it's not just, given from the beginning, and the laws, the accounting, the detailed accounting of that could be changed in the midst of our spending all these expenditures. And this is what happened. And it's like not enough when we have so many accounts to manage to really pay attention to, but in the midst of that, the rules have changed by CDE, and we have to quickly pivot and make sure we record that correctly, because all these expenditures will be audited by our external auditors. As of December 31st, to be spent is $975,425. And what we have spent as of December 31st, first half of the fiscal year, is $290,653. And I'll just open up for any questions.
Thank you very much, Song. Trustee Carolyn Swanson.
Yeah, thanks. Sorry, I'm just trying to get my light back on. So, Song, I appreciate you mentioning the auditor situation, because that was that's kind of my biggest concern with this money. It seems like there is constant it just seems like there's a lot of rules related to it. So is there anything that our district can do now to kind of help make sure that we are following the rules, so that later when we get audited, my understanding is if we get audited and we used COVID funds for something that's not, that they don't technically feel is tied to COVID, then we may have to actually pay for that out of the general fund, and then we would lose that funding. Can you speak to that?
Great question. Maybe I'll just leave the screen on this. We can't do it now. We have to do it before, when we got news from CDE saying this is coming. First of all, we have to understand the parameters, what can be spent, and then deal with the fiscal side of it later when the CDE will say, okay, this is what the estimated allocations. So as soon as we hear about that, we will work with our administrative team, and then in turn, they work with the site councils, what they need, and so on and so on. So we built that framework in there already. in a Google Doc to share with other group of people. And then within, of course, on department, I personally handle this because honestly, we have, I guess I only trust myself. It's so complex. I can't afford to lose a dollar. Is so critical.
It is. It's
So,
almost dangerous. Yeah.
absolutely. And then also we work very closely with the external auditors. If there's slight doubt in my mind that, maybe this could go either way, it's also because it's COVID money. The state put in sometimes a little bit broad rules, but they ask the auditors to audit. I would like to work with them to know exactly what you're looking for. Is it okay if we, spend or transfer this expense in this category? We have in writing, so we have it very tight, the process.
Okay, great. And then just a total, is it about 4.8 million that we've gotten in aid so far?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's about 3.7 is 1.1. That's correct.
Okay, thank you so much. That's it.
Thank you, trustee Carolyn Swanson. Trustee Brian Swanson.
I don't have any questions. I'm just glad that, and it's not surprising Song is on it. I'm glad that she is because the amount of money is mind boggling, but the process has got to be mind boggling as well. And I wouldn't want any, she's the one to be on it. That's all.
Excellent. Dr. Frank?
Nope, I'm just glad Song's on it. Thank you.
Yes, everybody concurs. We're happy you're on it, Song. And I remember when COVID first started, I had heart palpitations when we started realizing what we had to buy, what we had to go and secure for the classrooms and masks. And I thought, we can't afford this. What's going to happen? So how wonderful that the support has been forthcoming. And Song, I can think of no one better to guide us through this than you. So thank you for your excellent work.
Thank you. And if I may say, I would like to thank site folks, administrative team, classified staff, and they have been following the rules. Check with me, the account codes every time when there's a spending. So everybody has been working together in this.
Very good. Thank you for mentioning that. It's like the end of a film. It's not one name. It's a plethora of people that have contributed. Any public comment at this point? This is a quiet night. Okay. Thank you so much. We're moving on to D, please. Mid-year supplemental Lcap update.
Good evening, Director Silva, here to give you our mid-year Lcap update. And I just want to say thank you to Song. I was so happy because Song, a lot of this presentation has to do with Song just presented, which was, what are we doing with the federal monies? So I just want to first of all, let me get my sharing situation going on here. I may need some help. Desktop?
No, she's have it open.
No, it's this up here, that. And this. Sorry, huh? Okay.
Noise.
Okay, and I don't put it in slideshow. There we go. Thank you so much, Raymond. Okay, so can I put this up here? Okay.
It's further from your mouth.
Is it?
There you go.
God.
Perfect.
There we go. Okay, so thank you. I just want to present here that the mid-year Lcap update comes with the idea that because we have received all of these extra monies from the federal government, the state of California wants districts to share with parties and the stakeholders and educational partners is what they're called now, how these federal monies are aligned to our Lcap. So it's kind of a twofold, okay? In addition to also just bringing you just general LCAP update and where we are in the mid-year. So as part of the requirement, we have to do the supplemental for the annual update, which is those 5 questions that really do refer to the federal monies that we have received and how we are, and I will explain that in a minute. The available, and I want to say available mid-year outcome data related to the 28 metrics that the LCAP requires. So you will see that there are things that we have and there are things that we don't have, and that's to be expected, as well as the mid-year expenditures for all of the actions that we have listed in the LCAP. So I just want to that's the big idea. So the impact of the budget overview for parents, this, as you recall, at the ending of last school year, we showed what our projected budget would be, what the monies that we received, and what would be included in the LCAP. And so this was developed by Song, and bottom line, this is what we shared with parents, and then you see what the difference in the monies are. Difference in the LCFF funds, our LCFF supplemental and concentration grants, which really it's not additional money that we get, it's just a formula that says that of your property taxes, this is the amount of money that you must spend on improved and increased services for students. That's at $770,411. And now you see that we've received less than what they said that we would get. So these things change. And then other state funds. And so this is just that snapshot, a new snapshot, so that our families understand the monies that we are getting and the difference between the adopted budget, the first interim, and what the difference is. And I know Song could probably explain this better than I can, because this is her world. So I don't know if anyone has any questions about this. If you do, you would have to ask Song. So
I'm curious, when the LCFF second line.
Yeah.
So 770,000, like you say, first interim is 719. Why do I see 1540 is the difference between those two numbers?
Yeah, I know.
I need a math class. Help
I
me.
know, so do I. You know what? This is information that I got from Song, and maybe I did a typo. I don't know. Song, can you help me out here?
Sure. So let's see here. Yeah, it's just probably there's could be a typo in here.
Okay.
What happens is that this shows, this is like what Ani said, this shows just the second line is show what we have to spend. We don't get any supplemental or concentration funds. We don't get any state funding in LCFF. We do get a fixed dollar amount because in 2013, when the state rolled all the categorical funds into a fixed bucket, they allow basic aid school district to retain that amount. For us, it's a little bit over $2.5 million.
Right. And
that in this total in here. And so although it says LCFF is not totally LCFF, it's only of $2.5 million, the rest is just property tax dollars. And this is, I think there's a change, and maybe the math here, the difference should be between the two, that's more than 1540. So we have to go back and see, could be a typo in here. But again, this is just a display, and this is a dollar amount. I think what happened is that when we were working with SUP for doing this, the report, there was a column showing an older column. Could be that amount was picked. So I do apologize. We can come back and just fix this when we've posted to on the website. The other highlights I want to point out is the federal funds. And obviously people are going to say, why is it all of a sudden a change of 1.3? This is the increase between projected adopted budget. Remember, we do it, although you have to do it by July 1st. We would produce our budget way in May or June, and we did not have the amount of all those COVID money yet. And first interim is as of December. So 6 months later, we will receive like ELO, the SO2, SO3. They would go through the state CDE to us, but they consider federal sources. That's why you see a huge adjustment increase in here. Projected revenue, the total is 1.7. And those are major highlights, and I'll leave that for any questions.
Do you have any questions, sir?
No questions.
Okay.
No, okay.
Trustee Carolyn Swanson, any questions?
Is this the end of the presentation or is this just a pause point?
This is a pause point.
Okay, I'm gonna
Yeah.
wait till the end, so I'm good right now.
Okay, sounds perfect.
Okay.
Honey, take it away.
All right, thank you. And thank you, Song. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on from that. Where is it not going? Where's it not going? Uh-oh, SpaghettiOs. It's not working. There we go. Okay, yay. Okay, so the next portion is the requirement as the supplement to the Lcap. This supplement to the Lcap is, there are 5 questions, and this supplement will be attached to the Lcap at the end of this school year when I write the new Lcap for 22-23 school year. Okay, so this is a portion, it doesn't need to be approved. It's just, it really is just sharing with our educational partners what we have done with the additional monies that were not included in the Lcap. So I would like to, and that's this, and you have this in the board packet, the supplemental to the annual update, but I'm just gonna briefly highlight some of the things that address the 5 prompts. So for example, how did we engage our educational partners in the use of the funds through the Budget Act of 2021 that were not included in the Lcap? And so you will see that, and this was direction by the county, just said, you know, you have these plans that you have written, the Extended Learning Opportunities Grant Plan, the in-person instruction continuity plan, the ESSER 3 plan, and all of those plans, we had to identify the processes that we employed feedback from our stakeholders, educational partners. And so all of that is identified there. So they were like, you know, just make sure you put links to the plans and the amounts of money that you received, which is what you see in that section. The second portion is to describe how we use the additional concentration grant add-on funding, but we don't receive that. So we just write, we just do not get additional concentration grant funding. That's the answer to the second question. Oops, go back. There we go. Question number 3. How did we engage our educational partners on the use of the one-time federal funds for COVID-19? And so I just want to highlight that, you know, if you recall a couple of years ago, it feels like forever ago, that we had town hall meetings, that we had lots of meetings at the elementary, the middle, the high school, site-specific teacher, parent meetings. We did surveys. We really reached out to our community to gather their input as to what we needed to do to provide safety in the classroom, as well as intervention services, social emotional services. And so that's what I've identified in to answer question number 3. Question number 4, how are we implementing the Federal Rescue Plan Act and Federal Elementary that Federal Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Expenditure Plan is ESSER. That's the ESSER 3 plan. And so, and what are the successes and challenges that we've experienced? So again, highlighting, the board just approved this on October 28th, the ESSER 3 plan. So a lot of the ESSER 3 plan are things that we have allocated monies for the following school year. But I will say that, you know, in implementing for this year, we were able to provide the intervention supports, such as additional certificated teachers at the elementary, our teachers on special assignment. We were able to, you know, embark on the equity project that we're beginning, by the way, on February 21. You are welcome to attend our PD day. We're very excited. You know, as well as we posted for a mental health professional for the high school, which we have hired. At the time that I wrote this, we didn't have someone. So we do now. So it's just, it's moving along. Some of the challenges have been in filling positions. That really has been, especially our instructional aides at the elementary level has been challenging. As you know, it's challenging to find folks to meet our current needs. And then finally, number 5, how these additional fiscal resources have supported our LCAP goals. And clearly the fact that our second LCAP goal, which is about social emotional wellness for our students and staff, we were able to implement the Institute for Social Emotional Learning. We were able to purchase all of the protective gear that I've listed here, extra personnel for noon duty, an extra health clerk, the meal vouchers for the summer. And then in alignment to our LCAP goal, the third goal, which is about student achievement, especially our improved and increased services, again, purchased the measures of academic progress assessment, hire 2 additional certificated teachers to support at elementary interventions. And then again, the Admentum that we're using for credit recovery at the high school to support students, as well as our teachers on special assignment. So we feel that the money that we have received and how we have implemented has been supplemental to our LCAP goals, very much in alignment. So that's this portion of the presentation. Any questions? No? Oh.
Board members, if you have a question,
Yeah.
please speak up. Trustee Carolyn?
Yeah, thanks. I have I noticed that Ani, there's a kind of like a parent supplement to this. And I think there always is, but I was wondering if you could include that in the Pgusd weekly break. I don't know if you have time to put it in this week, but I do think reaching out and sending out to the parents would be great. And then is there like some sort of regulation on the timing of when, for instance, that the stakeholder information was garnered? I remember those town halls, they were years ago. Do we need more recent input from families?
No, this is capturing when we received the monies and when we implemented the plan, how did we engage our parents and our families and our community and our teachers and our classified staff and our administrators. So this is a story to share with our community as to when we did receive those monies and we wrote the plans, how did we engage our educational partners? So I don't think it's something we need to do now. I mean, if there's a new plan, then they say you need to get parent engagement, we will do that. But these are plans we already wrote.
So it's a progress report for us to kind of understand where you are in the process.
Exactly. So the families so that our community understands that these federal monies that we received, that Song just presented on, this is what we spent the money on. This is how all of that, it's just a progress.
Yes.
Of that.
Okay,
So,
thanks
yeah.
for sharing that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ani. So is it possible to get that in the weekly Pgusd newsletter?
You mean this presentation?
The whole presentation, all these pages?
No, not the whole presentation. Sorry, the parent section. You know how it's like a 4 or 5 page parent update? It was mentioned in the cover sheet.
Are you referring to the supplement to the annual update to the 2021 local control accountability plan, the one that I just presented right now?
Yeah, and you know what? I'm looking at it really fast to see where I saw it. I can email you what I saw after the meeting, and you can tell me if it's something that's doable, if that works.
That's perfect. I'm happy. Okay, that'd be great.
Great, thank you.
Yes, Trustee Carolyn, thank you. So in continuing, the next portion of the LCAP is it really is the actual LCAP with a mid-year lens Okay, and a portion of this presentation are the metrics. Now you'll see that some of the metrics in the document, that the outcome is unknown, the outcome is in progress, or the outcome is known. And so there may be data that we just don't have yet, and that I've identified, and that's what we're supposed to identify in the document itself. Okay. And then again, with the expenditures, the expenditure portion and implementation, you really do see, we went up through the first interim, which was, I think, end of October. Correct me if I'm wrong, Song. I believe that's the timeline. And that's what we were, at the county office, we were told, you have to take a breaking point, it's kind of like in the first interim is the best one. And because the statute states that this presentation had to happen by February 28th, it was kind of like, well, where do we decide what is the line of demarcation? And so for expenditure purposes, we chose first interim. And so you will see, as you go through the LCAP, you'll see the exact amounts. This is how much we've spent on each and every of the actions that have been identified. Okay. And then, so what I'd like to do now is I'd like to show, so for example, it goes through each goal, and then all of the metrics for the goal. And this is our first goal. And then all of the actions for the first goal. So for example, the first goal alone has these metrics. Okay. And I'm not going to read them all because it's a ton. but I'm just saying that these are the things that the state requires that we report on, that these are the metrics just for the first goal. Okay. So you'll see that in the document. And then the actions, and this, I just kind of highlighted what you will see. You'll see that there's the goal in the action, the description, the time span. Is it contributing? Was this action contributing to our improved and increased services in terms of funding? Personnel expenses, non-personnel, total funds, and then mid-year. The mid-year report this is the amount of money we have spent thus far. Or if for some reason something, let's say it didn't, we're not going to be able to meet this action, then we would write, we haven't been able to hire someone, or we haven't been able to implement or whatnot. Okay. So I've just listed here our second and our third goals that are already listed for our in the LCAP. And then I just wanted to point out that that even though that we've had a lot of challenges, we really are implementing the LCAP, I would say at a good 95%. You know what I'm saying? And I feel very positive. And I think it's a very, it feels good to write a plan and to say, what, we're doing these things, and we're tweaking. And so when you see the metrics in terms of student progress, I just want to point out that it's just a snapshot in the middle of a school year.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And the purposes of showing this is really, it's really for our educators, our teachers, our interventionists, our administrators to really take a look at student by student and say, this one grew and this one didn't, but what is the reason and what are we going to do? So really that is in a nutshell, the meaning of the metrics. We're really not going to know the summative part until the end of the school year. So I just want to say overall, our students are growing, they're progressing, and our educators are amazing. They have their hand on the pulse of the kids. And I met with our elementary intervention teachers today, and they were they're doing such amazing work. The kids that are growing are growing as they should. And the ones that are not typically is because, they just need additional support, and they're doing that. So I'm just very pleased, very pleased.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Any questions?
Okay,
Yeah.
let's see.
All right.
Couple comments all over the place, just because this is a huge form. You're right on so many levels about how it feels good just to actually plan it and say, yes, we're doing this. And I wanted to comment about the AVID course and how important that is, because one of the struggles I see at the college level is it hurts when I see students with so much potential, but they don't have the necessary skills to organize, plan, and execute. And it looks like that. I feel like that's what the AVID course is helping students do. The students that do have that potential, but show them how to reach that potential. So I really appreciate that. The social emotional, I know we have the toolbox at the elementary level and the Courage Strong. At
It's
the middle
actually
school.
character strong. There's
Character
a little
strong.
typo there on my mistake. I wouldn't say courage strong. I don't know why.
Character strong. I
Sean's
do
here to
read-
make sure we get it right.
And I do.
There is a lot. I know. My apologies for that, but yes.
And the only thing that to spin off of that is that I don't feel we have anything that's an equivalent at the high school level. And I don't know, maybe that's because they're older, they don't need this. But I feel like we've had a couple of big doozies this academic year, a misbehavior from some students, and it's been on social media. And I know I started my short tenure on this board, bringing this up, and I just feel it coming back again. And I'm so glad. Thank you, Mrs. O'Donnell, for saying that it is covered in health. But I do agree with Ms. Shamas that it's not enough.
Well, and we are, this is coming at a future board meeting soon. We will be bringing a contract for middle school and high school. There's an online courses that are very specific to these issues that you're talking about. It's about making right choices, and it goes from 6th grade all the way through 12th grade. So both Principal Roach and Principal Garcia have agreed that we do want this. So I will be bringing this, what I'm saying,
Wonderful,
in
yeah,
addition
yeah.
to
Yeah,
to the
thank you.
amazing things that Mrs. O'Donnell is doing. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm also very excited about the parent engagement. Currently implementing, can't wait until it's implemented. That's going to be offered through, was it through the adult school?
Well, it originally it was, but it was kind of rolled into one big contract. I do have some data. We did have a good attendance on the first 2 sessions. The last session really didn't have anyone. So we need to go back to the drawing board and kind of figure out what could we do, because it was advertised on our website. The principals advertised it. And so we're working with the company, the Institute for Social Emotional Learning, to see what have we missed? What could we do to increase the number of participants on that?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's shocking that there wasn't greater participation.
Yes.
And your last comments about, you visited the campus and you talked with the intervention instructors, and hats off to the intervention teams in this
yeah.
district. I mean, this is why families move to this district is because their children matter. And we, as a parent, we feel it. Thank you. And to, Principal Keller just walked in. Thank you. We feel it.
Yeah.
And that's all.
Yeah, we have amazing administrators. Their leadership is incredible with their staff. We have wonderful intervention teachers. I met with Dr. Hackwist today to talk about, the high school and his analysis of the high school students and comparing their, DNF list to the mapped results to, and thank God for our teachers on special assignment for their role in that. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Brian?
Well, as usual, when Director Silva presents something, my mind just kind of explodes, partly just because the enthusiasm that you bring to it, again, I think it's astounding. I know you would be the first to say it's not all me too, and I know that you have a big team of people, but when I look at, and I remember once when you were talking about the Lcap, and it started as it was like 5 or 10 pages, this thing that you had to do, and it's turned into this monster. And now you have to not only build this monster every year, which has, it serves a great purpose, but then halfway through the year, you have to tell everybody where you are with it so far. It's like you're trying to make soup and somebody tells you have to write instructions about how to peel a potato. So again, I get how it's necessary. I was looking at our count right now. We have 31 people on the meeting. I really wish this was one of those meetings where there were a couple hundred people watching, because they would be able to see how difficult, how much has to go into just making this soup. And I guarantee you're not working just 40 hours a week. There's no way that that's happening. So
None of
thank
us
you.
are actually.
No, right? Not at
Nobody.
all. So
Yeah.
it's amazing. There's so many moving parts, and that again, you guys have all built this machine, but then you are describing to some outer authority how you've built this machine, and it's just it's astounding. So thank you for doing that, and your team for doing all of that and explaining to us what you've done.
Thank you. Thank you very
That's all.
much. I appreciate that. We do have a great team. Yeah.
And it is, I want to speak also to the complexity and the formative versus summative assessment. We do that with our students to see what are they getting, how are they doing? And if you just proposed and at the end of the year said, oh, missed it, what's so nice is you're stopping and taking a look, and what's not on track, you can get on track. And I just really applaud that. It allows you to pivot and make the differences we need to make.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
thank you for that.
Thank you.
Trustee Carolyn?
The cursor is very slow on the Chromebook. I'm sorry. I was like dragging frantically to get down. No, I do not have any further comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for sharing tonight. As Trustee Swanson said, your enthusiasm will carry us through. We appreciate it. All right, thank you. We will move on now to review a budget development calendar for 22-23. Oops, I'm sorry, public comment. Sure, there'll be a lot following suit for the earlier part of our evening. Okay, just checking, and thank you for keeping me on it. Board direction, keep up the good work, Ani Silva. Okay, so what I just said about budget development, I think we're going to look to Song Chen Ben Dib. Please help us.
Thank you, President Dawson. This is about just a presentation of information of our budget development calendar. The next board meeting in March, we'll be talking, sharing with the board assumptions, like staffing number of projected enrollment, property tax dollars, and so on and so on. But this is just to show the board the calendar right here. It is on page, I believe, 140 of the board packet. And I'll just show the highlights. As we know, the governor released his 2022-23 budget, proposed budget on January 10. And 10 days later, we presented the board projected enrollment projections for next fiscal year, and also updated property tax dollars. At that time, on January the 20th, we did not have December receipts posted yet, so it was up to November. And then also, I updated the board about the governor's, it was the Summers level, the governor's proposed budget for 2023. And also the same day, normally we would have fiscal officer, but since the position is still vacant, I attended the meeting, the webinar by Capital Advisors. They're just like School Services of California. They have really inside knowledge of the governor's budget. They really, provide all the details and really help all the school districts to really get firsthand knowledge of what the governor is proposing or is thinking for the next fiscal year. So that's the day that I attended the webinar. And then the next board meeting is March 5th. In here, we put on tentative. The external auditor, Ike Bailey, has asked for an extension because of internal staffing. Also the tax partner I believe is taking a leave. So one of the audit partners. So they have to make some adjustments. So at this point, we just put tentative. They have submitted a request to the State Controller's Office, and the State Controller's Office has approved that by April 1st. So it could be March 15, it could be also March 17. We have not heard anything yet. The last we heard from auditors is that they are getting close to wrapping up our 2021 audit report budget from last fiscal year when we closed the books. So at this point, we just put down tentative. And then we talk about the components of March 5th. Earlier on, Dr. Porras asked for how we move from March 17 to the 5th about the budget components. We believe that's a more appropriate time to start talking about assumptions to be used for the 22-23 budget. The 17 is when we'll present the 21-22, the current year, second interim. This is probably the most important interim report. We had the first interim in December, and now the second interim, we need to do it by March of each fiscal year. And then, of course, at the same time, we have to embark on our 22-23 budget preparation, the budget developments. For the last 3 years, we would meet with site administrators and also department directors to go over each of their budgets, the proposed budget and the thinking, so that we can get a better insight into the program, also to know what the operational spending of each of the school sites. And the only thing we will do that to really get a better understanding, to really coordinate the site, to support the sites better, is to know the programs, to what kind of services are happening there, and really match up with the fiscal side of the house. And we literally spend time, hours and hours, the whole month of March, to meet with each of these the administrators. And then following that is the governor's revised budget, and that's really traditionally the schedule. The governor's first proposes budget, and then he'll make a revisions, especially in light of the April's receipts, the actual receipts for the 3 major categories: personal income tax, corporate tax, and sales tax. So he would know better, and he will provide a revision to his proposals. And then the next major timeline is the June 2nd, is for us to present draft 22-23 budget, adopt the budget, and also Lcap for the board to hold public hearing. And then for the next board meeting would be for the board to adopt officially the district budget. The first public hearing is for the public to have a first look at it, at a comprehensive budget, and also Lcap message and parameters. And then the next meeting to adopt. And then, of course, July 1 is by law, it must be done by then, on or before July 1st. And then with that, I'm going to stop sharing and open up for questions.
Okay, questions from the board, please. Trustee Carolyn Swanson. Okay, Brian, can you share?
I have no questions. I appreciate the presentation. It's nice
Yeah.
to see the timeline laid out the way it is.
Absolutely.
No questions. Thank you.
I concur. Laid out quite well, and appreciate very much your explanation as we go through, because if our district is not fiscally responsible, we're in big trouble. Is Trustee Carolyn on now?
I'm on.
Please share any questions.
The only thing I see, and I'm just not sure if this document goes further than the board packet. So there's just a date. I think it says it does say March 5th for the presentation of the 2021 annual audit report. And do you mean that that will be March 3rd? Because that's our next board meeting, or can you clarify those dates for me?
Yes, March 3rd. Could be a
Okay, March 3rd.
typo.
Okay.
March 3rd.
Yeah.
meant to be
Everything
board
else
meeting.
is super straightforward. Thank you so much.
Thank you for seeing that. Okay, so thank you. Public comments at this point? It's a very quiet night. Okay, so we're now moving on to future agenda items. Yes?
Madam
What am I
President, I have
forgetting?
no notations other than trustee Carolyn's comment regarding future work on the policy workshop, but that's already on the calendar.
It's on the
so
books.
Otherwise, whatever the board would like to add.
Okay, anything else at this time?
Yes, I had a conversation with a community member who was not concerned, just curious about where we are at as far as providing information for our local military families. So in this discussion, I said, well, what about an overhaul of the website? We know we've had some issues with communication, whether it's too many emails or not enough information going out. So I don't know how to phrase this, maybe an overhaul of the website, or that's how I phrased presenting it as far as communicating through the public. But certainly the basis of the discussion was, how do we provide information to our military families that could be useful?
Okay, so that's what you'd like to see. All right, does that give you?
Information, like a tab or a link
Yeah.
to that people who just, we have DLI here and the
Sure.
NPS. So as soon as they come here, anything that they could find helpful for them.
To assimilate, and it's a short-term type of thing. Does that give you a little bit of direction,
It
Dr.
does, and
Forrest?
we work with both of the facility. They have liaisons that work with our district, and they let us, well, they tell us anyway, they make direct contact with the families for services. So we'll try to align with them as we work to fill the webmaster position for the district. That'll be something that we'll also be able to put on that list, but I have it on for future agenda now.
Great, thank you. Nope, I'm good.
Okay, trustee Carolyn Swanson.
Yeah, thanks. I got a couple questions. So Ralph, when we were talking about the maps, they said something about the registrar needs them by February 28th, but we're not meeting again until March 3rd. What do we need to do about that? Do we just wait until March 3rd?
No, yeah, that's the preference. We are within our timelines. Ultimately, we need to have our approved maps to the county shortly after our March 3rd deadline. And then there's a county committee that will approve them. So we have been monitoring and watching those timelines very carefully. As long as the board approves the map choices and the election cycle choices on the 3rd, we will be fine. I will be meeting with the deputy superintendent of the county to ratify that with them. That doesn't require a board meeting because we'll have already adopted them.
Okay, understood. So it'll just be its normal course of, it'll be its normal item on March 3rd on our agenda, sounds like.
That's correct. It will be a public hearing and then action.
Perfect. And then can we do something where we get to meet the director of IT somehow as a board?
In what way?
Well, remember like when Brian and I just got elected or re-elected for him, we did kind of like a meet and greet for all the directors. I just realized since we have a new IT director, we haven't really had that. And so maybe, and he hasn't met any of us board members. So maybe just like a really brief somehow, I don't know, I was hoping you could have an idea on how to do that properly.
Well, we could put on a presentation just as a sort of as he has a chance to get settled in, to do a presentation of what he's seeing as areas of focus for the department at a board meeting. And that'll give the opportunity for him to meet and dialogue with you as a full board.
Okay, yeah, that's good. I like that, as long as the rest of the board likes that too. And then the other thing I have is, AB 361. Do we want to bring that back or do we want to continue as is?
When do we decide about that agenda? I think it would be time to bring it up again next time. Do we just agendize that?
I think we, at this point, last I recall was that we were not bringing it back unless there was an emergency that called us to.
Oh, is
bring
that
it forward.
so?
But
Is
you
that
guys
the
probably have
memory?
a better, I'll defer to you all.
Yeah, I mean, you voted against it.
Yes, I know how I voted.
In
Thank
case
you
you
very
forgot,
much,
yes.
trustee Brian Swanson. I thought it's something every 30 days we re-examined. I couldn't remember.
That's if you pass the original resolution, then you need to basically pass it every 30 days.
It's only good for a month, correct? When we do that?
Correct.
Yeah, so, yeah, I mean, I would be happy to revisit it again because I think it would be good to have it in place, but yeah, unless my fellow board members have a change of opinion on whether we should have it or not, it feels like wasted effort.
I agree, Brian.
I haven't changed my stance, but I'm willing to listen to discussion.
Yeah, I feel like we should look at it again.
All right, well, let's get it on there then.
Okay, so let's put it on for next time and we'll see.
And that concludes my list. Thank you.
All right. I just wanted to say, oh, please, I hope to hear from Beth Shamas one more time.
One more
Please
time.
talk to
Very
us.
short.
Talk to us. No
Um,
worries.
It's just that on the background here for Board Bylaw 9322, where it talks about the public having the ability to put something on the agenda. And it says here, the request from a member of the public must be submitted to the superintendent or designee with supporting documents and information. So I mentioned this a few years ago, but so I'm going to bring it up again. But I think it would be helpful if the board created some information sheet that you could hand out to the public, and it would help them clarify why, what the subject is they would like to have on the agenda and why they want it there. Because when it says supporting documents and information, you're not sure what to do with that. So my suggestion is just that you would have, something easily that you could pass out to a member of the public if they wanted to put something on the agenda. If they came up here and said, hey, I like to see this on the agenda. At least having something that they can look at would help them identify, and then it doesn't feel like a waste of time if you don't know, if you can direct them to some other place or some other way of handling whatever the issue is. But that's my suggestion.
Okay, thank you for stating that. Any other public comment? Oops, there is one. Miss McNary.
Thank you, President Dawson. I just wanted to share my support for your comments. I would really think it would be beneficial for the board to revisit AB 361 and what's going on right now. I think it's kind of unfortunate that Trustee Paff isn't here this evening. He's the one who seems to have a really strong opinion about AB 361 and the so-called poison pill. So if you all could agendize it again, so we can really get to the root cause of why this isn't being passed as a resolution like it is for other local districts. I mean, if you look at all of the other local school districts that we're surrounded by, all of them have passed this without issue, and it now sits on their consent agenda, and it's not something that anybody has to think about or worry about. And it gives all of them, and I would think all of you, the comfort of knowing that if for some reason you can't be there in person for whatever circumstance, it's not going to create any kind of like challenge for you, and your privacy is not going to be jeopardized. So I'm really glad to hear your support for revisiting the item, President Dawson, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing tonight. Any other public comment? As a board, what I wanted to mention is we have all talked about the idea how hard it is often to curtail our comments and questions because we're passionate and we want to know more all the time. We're essentially big students at heart. But I do want to note that it's 9:15. We've gone through the agenda. We've had wonderful presentations, and I just appreciate the board's effort to curtail. I feel so heartbroken sometimes to look at educators who have to be up at dawn and be at their jobs. So thank you for your patience and great job tonight getting through things. Anything else to add, Dr. Porras?
Oh, no.
Is it time to say goodnight?
Time to say
And
goodnight.
sweet dreams to everybody.